Wow.
Looks nice down there.
Yeah.
Our next show should be traveling with John.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, here we go.
This is what I'm painting.
Whoa, cool.
Oh, it's so good.
This is a Coca-Cola cooler.
Huh, that's awesome.
And we can't see it yet, so hold tight till we get back where we can see.
Oh.
Right now we just see the Facebook Live stuff. So hold tight. Almost there. You have to go through so many steps.
There it is.
You there? Awesome.
Yeah, I think we got it.
All right, then let me pull the zoom back up there. Awesome. Okay. Oh, the little puppy. Oh, look. There's a little puppy, and there's her puppy that just passed away.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's beautiful, though. You did a great job, Britoni.
Yeah.
I'm not finished yet.
So, yeah, John's on with us. So, Josh, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, all right. Well, last one of the season, and happy to have on here old friend and past colleague, Britoni Burdett. So Britoni, thanks for joining us today on our final episode of 2020. There will be more coming, so stay tuned for that. We are getting more people in here. As always, please reach out on Facebook on our Intrepid Spirits page to connect to anybody that is on the calls and continue the conversation. Also, feel free to enter any chat questions, comments in the chat area here on Zoom for Britoni. So with that said, over to Dill and Susan. Dill, how you doing today?
Hey, man. Great. Hey, Hadzini, check it out. Nice that shirt on. The sea is dangerous, storms are terrible, but these have never been sufficient reasons to remain ashore. Unlike timid souls, intrepid spirits seek victory over those things that seem impossible. It is with an iron will that they embark on the most daring of all adventures to meet the shadowy future without fear and conquer the unknown. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan and Britoni and Hadley, and we'll get the and today is all about a conversation. So
today we're going to have a great.
We got some people on there. You just send your stuff to either raise your hand and Josh will and unmic yourself, or unmute, I should say, or shoot a note to Josh.
So great. So I hope everybody's doing well today. And Britoni and Dill and Hadley and I had a great conversation after our huddle. And we know with the holidays coming and with COVID and with just everything going on with life that, sometimes we forget about mental health and how to keep mental health. And Britoni, with her past, has had quite some triumphs over some trials in life. So she has used her creative energy to help her navigate through the highs and the lows and the highs and the lows and the highs. So Britoni, why don't you start us off and just talk about what you found of the importance of creativity and positive mental health, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. First off, I want to thank you both thank everyone at Ignition for embracing me and going through that journey with me as I was embarking on the early stages of the recovery. And part of having a traumatic brain injury, but any kind of mental illness, is having a support system, right? So I was lucky enough to have an amazing family that supported me, but also to have a support group, right? So that's what the Intrepid Spirits are. And anyone that doesn't have a support group, they could lean on us as a group, right?
Exactly.
For the support systems. That's one thing that I think is super important as well. Even tapping into the whole creative side. So going through my journey, I just really leaned on my creative side and noticed that it really helped. Like, inspire me, keep me out of trouble, just something that was, it's just been like this guiding light the whole journey. That and it's kind of one of those things too. It's like, well, I didn't know how to paint, right? So I taught myself how to do it, and then it's like, well, I don't know how to do that yet, right? And you figure it out, and there's just such a blessing in that whole journey where you're just creating. And then there's the term post-traumatic growth. And so anytime that we experience any trauma could be big or small, right? It doesn't have to be on a scale of something super traumatic like this car accident and having this brain injury. It could literally be like,
You're at where?
you heard some fireworks at a younger
yes.
age,
Yes.
and it created this loud noise and it scared you, and then it created triggers moving forward in your life. So, not discounting trauma for any stretch of the imagination, but allowing the post-traumatic growth to take place, right? So it's allowing yourself to have to feel the pain and go through the pain, but allow yourself to have a better life on the other side of the pain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we talked about one thing about when we think of creativity, we think that we have to be artists, right? But there's other ways of looking at creativity. I mean, tell us some of the things that you've done that aren't traditional art, like painting and stuff like that.
Right. So journaling is one huge part of, even with positive psychology, how journaling can really help us not only like set intentions, but also allow us to anticipate obstacles, and there's just a huge like growth that happens with journaling. And we could have the same journal prompts. This is something that we'll provide at the end. I've put together some soul work for everybody. And it's having the same journal prompts for 3 days in a row, but you might have different answers,
through
each day based on your mood and your life, your daily life experiences. Other things are like dancing, gardening. Creativity can mean so many things. Writing music, playing music.
Yeah, Jill, tell us you were like mowing the yard, right?
Yeah, I was telling you, I was telling you the other day that, writers, having been a creative guy known as and traveled the world, literally having to come up with ideas, I always told people, but for the grace of God, go I always on the knife's edge of, one, falling off into the deep end. But thinking is hard work, and you look at the number of writers that you could look up history, like Ernest Hemingway blew his brains out. So many artists really struggle. I'll tell you, what really struggles is comedians, believe it or not. Pardon me, they struggle like crazy, and there's all sorts of, you can look all this stuff up. But I always tell people, I said, you start struggling, just go grab a lawnmower and go mow a yard. Pull a bunch of weeds. It's amazing how you get out there and they quote garden, if you will, but and you start seeing progress. And that is the hardest thing with thinking jobs, creativity jobs, is feeling that you're making progress. Is a difficult thing. And anyone tells you different, I don't think they're correct. And I've spent 50 years thinking. And thinking is really hard work. So I share that. Another profession that's really interesting that I always worry about is dentists. I don't know if you know that, but dentistry, they struggle mightily, and that's why they have their own support groups now and all sorts of stuff. Because I guess it's looking in people's mouths drives them crazy. I don't know why. I have no answers, but I do know it's real. So. Anyway, yeah.
Talking about the hard work the other night, Hadley and Britoni and I were talking. And Hadley, tell us about the speakeasy that you went to, and how that was uplifting but draining, but how it helped you to be positive and feel good.
Yep. So right before Tony and Susan and I had talked, I was actually part of a panel for a monthly storytelling series that they do at a co-working space here in Bali that I'm a part of. And this month's theme happened to be pause, which I thought was very ironic. I had come up with a whole speech to give, and about 15 minutes before the presentation realized that that wasn't really true. And all of a sudden just changed my entire speech, because the truth is I had really struggled to pause. I do in every aspect of my life. I tend to go all in all the time, sort of similar to Dill, as you know, to that same personality trait. And so I went and I gave the speech about figuring out that I need to pause more. And interestingly enough, everyone else, all the other speakers on the panel, brought up how they in ways that they had struggled to pause and what it had taught them. And a big thing that came out of one of the speakers' talks was that he took the time during COVID when he was forced to pause. He moved to Hong Kong, was very secluded there. As an extrovert, that was extremely hard for him. And he realized, he sort of fell into a little bit of a depression. And what he realized is that in that stillness, you can find creativity, and it will help lift you out of that. And so I just thought that was really interesting. And Britoni, you can add on to this.
Yeah, well, I think part of the pause too is taking the time to breathe. And that's what creativity does, even journaling, painting, gardening. Like we said, it could be anything, but it allows us to slow down and allows us to tap into our breath and kind of get into a meditative state, lose track of time. And there's so much joy in the process, right? So we have the final product, but it's really the process. And one thing that I have found even with myself, and as we talked about right before we got on the call, is on Wednesday, right after Jill, Susan, and Hadley, I went downstairs and I found my dog had passed away. And my boyfriend wanted me to just go somewhere, just get away, get out of the house. And I was like, no, I need to stay at home with the pain, and I need to process it. And I just really leaned on my creativity super hard, and I just allowed the time to pass, but also allow myself to sit with the emotions, right? And so when we're creating, we a lot of emotions can come up, but we give ourselves time to process them, and it's such a beautiful thing what can happen on the other side of it, right? And so that the process of slowing down, pausing, breathing, getting in the meditative state, and also it brings in so much joy, and we find ourselves having fun in the process.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, I hope one of the things that last beyond COVID is that a lot of us did slow down, and that maybe we used that slow down properly and did some time to think, to pause, to stop and reflect on what's important, to stop and learn new things. I think one thing, Britoni, you said early on is, I can't paint yet. I can't play the piano yet. I can't. I like that, because it's a learning process, and who knows, at the end, I've been playing the piano since I was probably 8, and I'm still not very good at it at all. For part of it is I haven't gone through the process enough, but I do it for my own enjoyment. And so when I have some time, I just sit down at the piano, and it doesn't matter how great or bad it sounds. Dill thinks it sounds wonderful. So good thing he doesn't know much about music. Good thing he doesn't know much about music. But it's not about how good or great you are. It really is about the process and the enjoyment, and then using your brain in a different way. I know for people like myself, I'm so analytical. I'm so timelines, project management, check it off, get it done, and not stopping and thinking about the aesthetics of something or the bigger vision of something, right? I'm just like project management 101, get it done, you meet the timeline. So I think with our different personalities, and for people like myself that's more analytical, it does take effort to stop and to do that pause and to not think about it so much. And, you know, one thing we were talking about is, I don't know how many of you have seen the documentary or whatever it is about called The Social Dilemma. And it's really about, you know, how social media has, and the algorithms, and has really impacted our lives. And it's quite scary. I mean, I know some of my friends haven't been able to watch it all the way through because it freaked them out so much. And I know my initial reaction was, I've got to get off social media. I can't be part of this. But then I thought, well, why don't we try to overpower it with positive images and positive stories, and not just being in our silos? I mean, this whole new thing coming out, Parler, they're like, oh, that's a new platform and it's not biased. I'm like, yeah, it's not biased if you believe the way they do on the very, in fact, just libertarians, I think, that are doing it, but all the conservatives are falling on it. You know, so it's like, you know, let's don't be controlled by our mediums. Let's add the positivity to those mediums. And I'm a true believer that positivity can overcome negativity, if you will. So, so instead of getting off of social media, just make sure what you are contributing to it is positive and not falling into the rhythms of negativity. So
yeah, and setting the boundaries around it as well, right? Like, so
right.
setting your intentions of what is meant for you. And yeah, and that's with anything in life too. It's like reframing your mindset is huge, right? So not allowing yourself to not go there just because you don't think you're capable, or you know, whatever. Another thing I wanted to say is that a lot of times when we get to a depressed state or feeling anxiety, we don't allow ourselves to go do something that brings us joy, and we like create this mountain out of the process. Like, we don't allow ourselves to sit down and actually like put the paintbrush onto the canvas, right, and just start the process and allow ourselves to feel the joy. Instead, that like little inner fires like bubbling up inside of us, and the longer that we don't allow ourselves to go there, the more it eats away in us, inside of us. And really, it's just like, just start and do it, and don't allow the depression not to let you go there.
Yeah. I was going to say one other thing, you know, it's interesting. I got our Ron Blue is our financial planner, and I got a little newsletter from him just today. And it was feeding into that we have this myth that more money means more freedom, means more happiness. And we keep hearing that money can't buy happiness, right? And so that's one thing that we were talking about Hadley about, and what her observations have been in Indonesia at the different islands and stuff. Is that, you know, because you hear people so many times go to these less developed countries and they go, you know, these people have hardly, you know, a tenth of what we have here in the US, but they seem to be so much happier. So Hadley, what have you observed from that simplicity standpoint in Bali?
I think it has somewhat to do with the simplicity, and when you have less stresses. You know, you're happy with the roof over your head, you have food on your plate, and your family and your loved ones are nearby. But I also think what I find very interesting is that everyone here has some form of creative outlet, whether it's, you know, singing or creating music or dancing. You know, there's so much rich history in like the war dances and the welcome dances, and there's a ceremony for everything, and all the women gather and create beautiful little art pieces of art, essentially out of palm leaves that they distribute every day. It's just a way of life here, and I think that brings them so much joy and keeps the emotions, I don't know, it brings them joy and keeps the peace. Or
yeah. No, it's interesting because look at children. I mean, our great niece is 2 years old, and she sings all the time, right? She sings while she's eating dinner. She sings while she's walking. She's, you know, and I think sometimes as we get more mature and civilized, we lose some of that. We lose some of that spontaneous joy and happiness.
I always told people, always asking one of my favorite places I visited around the world. And in 80 countries, I will tell you one of the coolest spots on the planet, okay, is under the 7 Mile Bridge in Lagos. As it starts to go over the water, it's one of the most dangerous bridges in the world. And the robber barons are out there basically. And but they play soccer underneath the bridge. There's a whole, I mean, it's the happiest soccer players on the planet Earth there. And they're playing with the crummiest old balls and whatnot. And I remember I showed up one day and I gave them a bunch of Coca-Cola soccer balls, and you would have thought I'd given them, I don't know what, a lot of money or gold or something.
Well,
It was
would
crazy.
bring joy, right?
But it's just amazing, the simplicity. The other thing I think that's interesting about this whole thing, because I think a lot of people on the call or that come to our Facebook, they live in resort towns. And having, lived in Aspen for 10 years, North Conway, Lake Placid, the challenges are so different because there's so much wealth around you. Because every weekend and the next party shows up, and it seems like, the lifestyle that goes with that and the drugs and all of it, it's really, it's not shocking at all that there's a huge suicide rate in the people, the kids, younger, from basically 16 to 30. And I maintain a lot of that is it's the drugs and the lifestyle, booze and all that, but it also is they see this huge wealth come in with the Porsche Cayennes every weekend rolling in and all that, and they go like, so wait a minute, I'm flipping burgers down here at this restaurant, and I'm going to not Wise Guys, what's that place? Zigzags at midnight because I get done working. I have a few beers and with my buddies until 3 o'clock in the morning, go to bed and do it all over again. And then it creates depression because they feel sorry for themselves. They don't see a way out, right? So it's just an interesting thing. And I always urge people, in like Lake Placid, I got a lot of young kids that are really we're friends with, and we have them come over to our house, and we're involved with them because we know that it makes a difference. And I think that all of us don't realize the effect that we have on people if you choose to be positive.
Right. Open your arms up. So Britoni, tell us some actions that we can take away. I know you are a big believer in, like you've mentioned, journaling already, but talk us through some of those like action plans.
Yeah, so one thing is that we had talked about early on with the Intrepid Spirits is the love cell. So that's an activity where you can download. I have the template right here. You can download a free template online, and it's kind of like a mandala, where like mandala art. But it's the process. Like it's not something that can be colored in within 5 minutes, right? Like it takes time, and so you can actually like take colors, for instance, and associate an emotion with each color. So like blue to you could mean like sadness, right? And so how sad were you this week? And color in your love cell based on how sad you were or how happy you were. That's yellow, right? And maybe it's full of yellow and it's shining bright, right? And so that's also a way to like work with your emotions is by tying it to colors. And this is just a great template to start, right? Even a coloring book or something, even paint by numbers. And then there's some journal prompts if you want me to go through them, or I can just put them in the Facebook group if anybody wants to. It's a 7-day journal prompt.
Can you, is it where you can share
You
it?
still got 4 minutes, right?
Yeah, I can go through it real quick. Okay. So the first part of it is to describe your life at a time when you've thrived. So you elaborate on this time that it's happened. Like, where were you? Who were you with? What were you doing? Or what did you do? And more specifically, what did you contribute towards making that time period one in which you thrived? And you spend about 15 minutes journaling on that. And then the next step is, so this is a 45-minute journaling session, and you break it up into 15 minutes. Or if you only have 15 minutes, you could break it up 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. So the next part is think about your future. Imagine that everything that's gone well as it possibly could, and and you've worked hard, you've succeeded in accomplishing all of your goals, think about it as a realization of all your dreams, and then now write about what you've imagined. And then the third part of that is to imagine yourself and the path towards your goal, and then how you're going to get there. An important part, especially in positive psychology, is to imagine any kind of possible outcomes, or obstacles that you can come up with that you may have to overcome to get towards your goal. And so, yeah, you do that for 3 days in a row. And then the second part, so the next 4 days of the week, is then you, let's see. So then we free write about our most traumatic life events, and we're going to do that for 15 minutes. So you just go through and you just spend 4 days just writing about all these traumatic events that you've had in your life. And then what do I need to take back, and where have I surrendered my courage, my passion, my conviction? Where has my fire been stolen? And how can you claim that back, right? And so, like, really reshaping it where you can see the silver lining.
Awesome. So Britoni, if you'll put that on the Intrepid Spirits Facebook page, that'll be great. And I know that, there's journaling is something that is recommended a lot in different spiritual, groups, about your morning scripture reading or your morning meditation time. And I find myself personally, if I start my day off with my routine, it always tends to be such a better day than when I just hop up and start going full force. And everybody knows I'm not an early morning person, so I have the leisure to be able to not have to get up too early to do all that stuff now. But yeah, so I think, as we head into the holiday season, this is a tough season. It's supposed to be a joyous season. But so many of us put these expectations on it. We miss loved ones. We're lonely. We're supposed to be like the fairy book tale of what the holidays are supposed to look like. And so just know that, use your creativity, whatever that may be. If it's, digging the grave, what is it? The one company had digging the dirt, right? Just digging the dirt again. And reach out. There are people that love and care about you. The Intrepid Spirits Huddle, like Britoni said, that's why we're all here. We're all here for each other. Never judging, never condemning, open arms and willing to listen. We're not here for the answers, because a lot of times we not have them, but we're here to help you work through the process and find the answers. So it's time to close out.
Another thing that I encourage really quick is to make gifts for your loved ones. So rather than buying gifts, make them this year. There's a lot of joy in giving somebody something that you've made, and then there's a lot of joy in receiving something that.
Yeah, that is so true, because we all, we have, we've got so much, right, as a society, and we're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to give somebody? So yeah, people love to have something that you've taken the thought for and created, and it doesn't have to be that elaborate either. So I have one announcement, and then Bill, maybe you can close it out with your thought starter. So this is the last week that we're going to go live on Facebook or record. We're still going to meet Mondays at noon, and it's going to be the Intrepid Spirits chat. So it'll be a lot more intimate and private, and we can, we'll bring on guests or speakers. We'll have topics to talk about. But if you just need someone, especially through these holidays, to know that we're here and with you, then we'll be there at noon on Mondays. And then starting next year, it's going to be more of a podcast, and we'll promote it so you know exactly what we're doing. But we'll keep the chat going for as long as people show up.
But my thought starter was this, would be next week and every Monday, just know, 12 o'clock, you got the Zoom stuff, we're going to be there. But really, the thought is for everybody to think about what this should look like. Because if we do the podcast, maybe we always have the chat, just keep it going, like we are. And then the podcast becomes really, maybe it's every 2 weeks, and it's special speakers, it's topics that we glean from, our peeps, us, the intrepid spirits. We say, hey, I want to learn more about painting. All right, let's get a painter on here, and have him show us how to do it. Or Tony can do that. I'm just making stuff up. But I just wanted to say, when we started this, we never knew where it was going to go. I don't think any of us thought it would be, we've had sometimes as many as 1,000 views. Never would have thought that in 100 years. But anybody has anything to share, what I want to do is sort of fix the McCord Driscoll website so that when I do Dillisms, that people can share, and we start to build so we can have like, oh, I know what else we want to talk about real quick. The Intrepid Spirits Award. We want to do an award and I already have a list of like 50 people that in a perfect world, eventually we'd have one every single day would get posted. And it's someone that is a radiator that goes out of their way to do the right thing. It's that servant leader person. We all know them, and we want to start to recognize them, and we'll come up with a really cool certificate that we can send out to people. And it's just like, it'll be an uplifting little thing it'll be a 30-second video that'll pop up, and eventually, we'll start out with one a week or one a month or whatever, but eventually it'd be like 8, the nightly news. There's one every single night.
Well, it's our way to flood social media with positive human energy.
Exactly.
That's
All right, so more to come. Watch out for the Facebook page. We'll keep you all posted. But we're here Monday at 12 o'clock
Whoever
on.
wants to show up, come on
Zoom.
aboard.
And we'll make sure you don't have to register anymore or any of that stuff. It'll be easy to just hop on with the user ID and password, and we'll make sure that gets out pretty broadly. So everybody have a great day, and thank you, Britoni. Thank you so much. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.
As well at 1 a.m.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
All right. Hip hip hooray!
Hip,
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 hooray.
Hip, hip, hooray. Hip, hip, hooray.
Great.
Everybody have a good day. Bye for now.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
I love you guys.
Love you
Love you
too.
too.